Imagine it's 1947. You just witnessed an unidentified flying object streaking across the sky, defying the laws of physics as we know them. But there is a catch. You're a person of color in an era where your voice is seldom heard. And the agency that you will report this to are steeped in what we call culture of systemic racism. Now, fast forward to today. What stories might have we missed in the annals of UFO history? How many unsung witnesses were there? What could they have told us? And tonight, we embark upon a journey back in time to uncover the untold stories of Black history in ufology. Let's step into a time capsule and rewind the clock. We journey back to explore UFO sightings and a subject that has captivated humanity for centuries and perhaps even millennia. Tonight, we ask not only what was seen, but who saw it? Are we missing a perspective in ufology that could have changed our understanding of these unexplained phenomena? Long before the term UFO was coined, human civilizations around the world have been documenting strange objects and lights in the sky. Ancient Indians' texts speak of flying venomous, while medieval paintings from the Europe explicitly featured saucer-like objects. But what question we must ask is, who were the storytellers of those early reports, and were their voices lost in the ether of history? How would the landscape of ufology look today if all the cultures and races and all of these had an equal stage to share their experiences? What hidden narratives lie buried into the folklore or oral traditions of community whose stories were never written down? During World War II, pilots reported seeing Foo Fighters and mysterious aerial phenomena accompanying their aircraft. While these sightings made their way into official reports and newspapers, have we ever stopped to consider the pilots themselves? Records speak of British, American, and German pilots, but were any of these witnesses people of color? Was there any reasons where we never heard of these stories? In a war that was effective with people across the globe, including millions of people of color serving in various capacities, could their experiences with Foo Fighters offer a different perspective than what has been largely ignored? How might these accounts from a diverse group of witnesses have shaped the early UFO discourse, especially when the global stakes were as high as they were during World War II? Let's go to the Roswell incident, and this was in 1947. Is arguably the granddaddy of all UFO stories, setting the tone for public interest in extraterrestrial life. The story was splashed across headlines, but what headlines wasn't written? In 1940s, America's segregation was in full swing. Jim Crow laws were in effect, and how did the racial dynamic of the era affect the narrative of Roswell? If there were Black witnesses in Roswell, how might they have stories been related, and what could their silence voices have added to the narrative? As we unravel the timeline of UFO reports, it's clear that the phenomena isn't just a scientific or a military concern. It's also a cultural and social one. In the understanding of the full story, every voice matters. We keep asking ourselves, what pieces of the puzzles are still missing? As we navigate through the labyrinth of UFO sightings and encounters, there's one roadblock that we can't overlook. Imagine having a life-altering experience, a close encounters of the third kind, and perhaps having nobody to tell it to, or even worse, no safe place to report it. Now, this is going to delve into what we call the missing voices lost to systemic issues that are stifling their story. Now, before the Mutual UFO Network, aka MUFON, which I am an investigator of, was established in 1970, reporting a UFO sighting was as decentralized as it can get. And you might can tell like your neighbor or a local newspaper. Now, if you was brave enough, even law enforcement. But what if the available platform had a predetermined bias? What if they wasn't equipped to take your story seriously? Before centralized agencies like MUFON, UFO reporting was a local affair. In a time of systemic racism, how many credible sightings from Black Americans was dismissed or even buried? How many groundbreaking cases and perspectives were lost because there wasn't a safe, unbiased space for everyone to report their experiences? Sheriff departments was often the go-to places for reporting unusual occurrences, including UFO sightings. How does this play into the story of ufology, and who gets to tell their story and who doesn't? So taking account, it's not about seeing and believing? What if it's about who is seen and who is believed? In a society where people of color often find themselves marginalized, reporting something as extraordinary as a UFO sighting to a local sheriff department was fraught with risk. So give us a thought for a second. Would you have felt comfortable reporting a UFO sighting to an institution that may not even acknowledge your basic civil rights? What stories were stifled because the cost of speaking was too high? We peel back the layers to reveal the structural inadequacies and systemic biases. The lack of centralized reporting agencies and the role of local law enforcement both contribute to this narrative void. And as we look forward, we may ask, what can we do to make sure that the stages of ufology is inclusive for all voices and not just those that the system favors? But sometimes the truth is uncomfortable, but it is facing the discomfort that we can hope to arrive to what we call a fuller understanding of our world. Now, perhaps other worlds as well. As we explore, reporting a UFO sighting was a challenging endeavor, especially before centralized organizations like MUFON existed. For Black Americans and other people of color, this process was further complicated by the presence of systemic racism in reporting agencies. In various parts of the United States, especially in the South, law enforcement agencies had corrupt relationship with hate groups like KKK. Reporting a UFO sighting is challenging enough without the fear of the person taking your statement as filled with a hate group. How many stories of strange occurrences in the skies were suppressed because of the risk of walking into a sheriff department was too high? Think about this for a moment. If the system designed to serve and protect you is complicit in your oppression, where do you turn when you witness the extraordinary? Let's go into a little more risk and fear. Even without the direct influence of hate groups, the atmosphere of systemic racism and social stigmatization created a barrier for people of color to report extraordinary experiences. The fear wasn't just about not being believed, but it was about the very risk to the personal safety. When the reporting of a UFO sighting carried the risk of putting your life and your family's life in danger, staying silent was a survival strategy. But what does this silence cost us in the understanding of UFO phenomena? What invaluable insight have we lost because people of color couldn't safely share their experiences? And how does this silence reverberate into the larger tapestry of UFO history? In the uncomfortable reality of systemic racism, an untold number of UFO sightings and encounters have likely gone unreported and dismissed. This isn't just a gap in the record, it's a chasm in our understanding and a limitation in the richness and diversity of human experiences with the phenomena we don't understand yet. So as we move toward the future, we must consider what other uncomfortable realities must we confront to hear the stories that has been forcibly silent. When the Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON, was founded in 1970, which I'm a part of, I'm a UFO investigator, it offered a standardized, centralized platform for UFO reporting, breaking down many barriers that previously existed. But while it provided a significant leap forward, one must ask, did it go far enough to include marginalized voices? MUFON revolutionized how we talked about UFOs, but did it revolutionize who gets to talk about UFOs? Even as we standardize processes today, the question lingers, who are we still not hearing from? And as MUFON and other agencies evolve, how can they better foster an environment that welcomes reports from a diverse racial and social background? What steps needs to be taken? Now, we're standing at the doorway of a new era, one where the narrative of ufology can be as diverse as the world in which we live. By broadening the spectrum, storytellers unlock the new dimensions of understanding these phenomena. Inclusivity isn't just a social justice issue, it's a scientific one. A fuller, richer understanding of UFOs can lie in the experiences of those who have been pushed to the margin. Imagine what revelations await us when the field becomes truly inclusive. Well, let's question the narrative again. What might we discover about UFOs when we start listening to the stories that we missed? And how would these narratives reshape our understanding of what is possible? As we chart the course of future ufology, the stakes are far more than scientific curiosity. They touch on the fundamental principles of justice and equality and our shared inhumanity. We look at the skies for generations, We wonder what's out there. Perhaps it's time that we look around us and wondering what stories are yet to be told. And if so, here's something I want to consider. How can we pave the way for everyone to safely share their skyward glances and unearthly encounters? Our understanding of the unknown may depend on it. As we journey through the intricate and often silent narratives with the realm of ufology, we must acknowledge that this conversation is far from complete. In fact, it has only just begun. Now, we've seen the gaps in our collective story, spaces where the voices have been drowned out and never, ever given a chance to speak. These are not merely footnotes. They are missing chapters that could finally impact our understanding of this phenomenon. Let's think about this for a moment. When a story goes untold, it becomes a shadow of the wall of human experience. A whisper in the wind could have been shouted out. Now, if we let these stories vanish, and we're not just erasing individual experiences, we're dimming the light that can illuminate unknown facets of the universe. Now imagine the breakthrough that awaits us when we lift these voices into the spotlight. Imagine the pieces of information and puzzles that we're missing, pieces that could reshape not just ufology, but potentially of the understanding of physics, space, and even the fabric of reality itself. Now, if someone you know had an experience, remember your story matters. Reporting mechanisms have evolved and avenues exist for your voice to be heard. If you've had a UFO sighting or an encounter, you can report it to our 24-hour hotline. That is 888-345-9121. As we cast our eyes toward the sky in wonder and anticipation, let us also cast our eyes toward each other exclusively and understanding. But because the story of UFOs is not just about them, mysterious objects or being from afar, but it also could be about us, our world, and the enchanted territories of our collective human experience. So I want to thank you for embarking and enlightening on tonight's journey. May we all continue to seek and question and most important, listen. And as we go forward, I want you to ponder this. If the untold stories continue to remain untold, your story, our story, could be the key that unlocks the frontier. But don't let this be a whisper lost into the wind. Good night and keep looking up. If you want more videos and content as we explore this together, why don't you come over to Why the Big Secret YouTube channel, subscribe, hit those notification buttons, and then we're going to question the narratives together. I'm Roderick Martin, and I'm going to leave you with this. Your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. It's time to think why. Looking forward to talking to you again.